So I think I'm going to call this one like putting native plants to bed for the winter or something like that. But here's our Teucrium canadense specimen pots, and really these are pretty much done for the year. You can see they're all but, yeah, they're literally just sticks at this point. So these aren't going to be doing anything. These stems really aren't doing anything. Now, normally with native plants, you might want to leave them up, but these are specimen pots, and I just kind of want to get them cut down and stuff so that they look a little nicer and I can put them somewhere and keep them safe. Kind of the last hurrah of things to do other than dividing a lot of plants. Just cleaning them up before winter here. Literally, that's just cutting down a bunch of stems and stuff like that, and maybe pulling some weeds out of the pots. Looks like there's some motherwort in here and a couple things, geranium, some sort of wild geranium. But yeah, literally just cut them down. They have a nice leaf mulch on there, so I'm kind of cutting them a little higher because that leaf mulch will actually save some heat in the pots, which can be important. But yeah, pretty much a lot of your native plants, once the leaves fall off, you don't need these stems anymore. Much like your more traditional landscaping plants or stuff like that. Now this applies to perennials, and I got all my seeds collected off of stuff. These Teucrium specifically did not produce seeds because I used them as cloning stock. Yeah, that's these two pots done up. Let's see, I can just stack these up now. We have these mixed pollinator pots here. Now there is a bunch of wild basil seeds in here. I'm just going to throw them on the ground. I don't care if they grow somewhere there. But yeah, there's Teucrium in here. Monarda fistulosa is these two. I still haven't decided if I'll be like trying to divide these or not. I probably won't be. I want to see what they look like next year, I believe. But yeah, same thing for them. Same thing for this one over here. This will actually help control some of that mildew. And the wild basil, another way you can tell that it's pretty well done for the season, is it'll have its little basil rosette-like thing there. But yeah, same thing for these. Just cut all these down, and boom, these are cleaned up. I can stack them up if I need to, or do whatever I need to do with them. But we got some other stuff to do, so let's move on to that. Well, we also have this Collinsonia canadensis right here. Now, this is getting pretty heavily attacked by slugs if you've been following some of my shorts. Hopefully, I'm going to cut these down. I mean, I probably should leave them up a little longer, kind of ensure that I still have them. But I got seeds off them, so I have that insurance there. And hopefully, by cutting these down, it'll kind of mitigate some of those slugs. Pretty much exactly the same thing. I may need to get some labels on these. Yeah, it looks like I need to get some labels, which that won't be too difficult. I already have some labels on these. Is this a Collinsonia? Yeah, it's Collinsonia. Yeah, these still had some pretty good life in them, but like I can even see here a bunch of slug slime in here still. I don't see the slugs. That's all right. More Collinsonia here. I'm probably going to plant these in the garden. I have a lot of them. Don't really know what to do with them. I think they're pretty root bound at this point. Let's take a look at that. Okay, these might not be. No, they are. There's rhizomes poking out the bottom. I'll do the same thing to these. Really, I'll put them in the rest of the containers. The actual flat I have of Teucrium. That way I know what they are. So pop over that way. So yeah, here's the actual flat of all my Teucrium. There's even one over here I should grab too. Had several, and you can see these ones, they're a little worse for wear. That's just because they're sitting up on the porch there. And they're getting colder and more sun. So somehow both you know, at the same time. But I'm gonna do the same thing to all these. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I just throwing them on the ground? Because there may still be some beneficial insects that use them or something. Specifically with Tecurium, I don't think there is, but it's good practice. I'll probably throw all of the material into the garden afterwards here. And I actually want to put a few of these pots into the garden. So do that right after this. These should be a lot easier to kind of showcase just how prolific these can be. Look at all those rhizomes. Now, these are actual real rhizomes. Be sure to check out my video on that. The more traditional form of rhizomes anyway. There's some weird stuff that goes on. But yeah, so all these should be able to overwinter just fine. Even in these pots, I've had luck overwintering them, but I'd like to get some into the garden. I'm trying to get a nice patch of it established. And the clones I put in there didn't do so hot, didn't get enough water on them, but they did down here. So let's go up there now. Oh yeah, and before I go up there, I should mention that I got a European species of Tecurium right here. Now this one's an evergreen. You can tell it's still very green. They call it evergreen germander. It is Tecurium camadris. So this is a new one to me for sure. Looks like it might have red or pinkish blooms, but in that same sort of open flower structure that's really cool with the Tecurium and like the Collinsonia, even though they're not very closely related. Here's part of the reason that I cut them down before I did this. It's going to be hard to carry everything up, but I could just stack them up because the pots are basically empty. Close enough. I should probably also mention I've been doing a lot of seed collection, especially off of these native plants, and you can see our unknown purple Lycopus here has its seed set just about ready. In fact, I think it is ready. So I'll be collecting those after the video. They're kind of fiddly and like to fall off the plants, so definitely check out the native seed collection video if you're wondering how I do a lot of that. Well, here's where the Tecurium plot is. Guess I did manage to get everything up here without dropping them again. Honestly, I'm shocked by these Woolly Kate yellows. It's a very impressive amount of fruit, and by the fact that these things are still alive. It has been hitting like 34 degrees, probably even 31 degrees with the wind chill. So that's really impressive. Now these aren't really ripe, but I'm sure if I brought them in, they would be. But yeah, they're really impressed with these tomatoes. I'll probably be growing them again next year. Save some seeds off of these. Got our plant material. Kind of throw this on the other side of the tomatoes, just so it's not super close. But here we have, probably covered in dirt right now. Here we have our little Tecurium plugs that I put in here. Now I was wanting to do a little scarlet bee balm patch here, and I did get one plant to establish, but the Tecurium's doing so much better. There's Carr. I don't know if I'm in shot, but it's fine. So I'm just gonna put a couple pots of this here and there. Now these are just the rhizomes. They might spread a little bit, they might not. I'm not too worried about it. Need to get the stalk down. But at some point these tomatoes will need to come down too. We have the very big established one right here, the Tecurium that is. And that looks nice, and we got a lot of the Glaucoma heteroaceae going off here, spreading like crazy, but you know, non-native, so we're gonna try and get a few more natives in here. And if the natives can be more like a ground cover, that'll be nice. I don't much care whether or not they are at the moment. If I can even get these out, that'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna break the pot just to save a couple of rhizomes. Like, I have so many. Honestly, I could just throw these on top of the soil and see what would happen, but I'm not gonna do that. That's a big chunk of rhizomes right there. Pretty cool. Cover them up. Just freaking pop them in around the place. That's pretty much what I did with the Physalis virginiana, is I just took a bunch of runners, put them around the garden, see where they take off. They took off pretty well. I'm even going to break these up a little just to get more of the rhizomes at the surface, because they should mostly be at the surface rather than super deep in the soil. I believe this is the purple apple tree right here. I'm sure I'll have a bunch more. Look at them rhizomes. Excellent. Kind of trying to orient them so they're pointing towards the surface, but they may self-orient themselves. I'm not sure. Not too sure on that. And the last pot right here, so put that right in there. Okay, tear the whole top of it off because the rhizomes are poking out of the pot. Ooh, good rhizomes, yeah. And put it right there. So that'll be nice. If I get a bunch of these growing in here. If not, nothing lost really. I can just make more. That's why I keep the specimen pots and why I collect seeds and everything like that. But yeah, tomatoes. Shocked that these are still alive. Shocked even more that there's a ton of fruit on these for some reason. It is small, I'll give it that, but you know, still green. I planted them late. But yeah, this is just kind of a nice, another short video. We can actually check on the cover crop real quick. Zinnias, surprisingly, still blooming. Oklahomas, as always, look nice. Cover crop does seem to be growing, so that's good. Yeah, I see a lot of seeds coming up over here. I don't know. Not sure what kind of seeds these are. I definitely see some sprouting. I think mostly carrots up here. So we'll see if they do anything. But yeah, there's a lot of little seedlings and stuff. And here even. Yeah, lavender still blooming also. But yeah, just thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have anything, specific questions, stuff like that. You know, I said all that, then I got distracted. Actually wanted to point out there's a Lactuca biennis right here, the tall blue lettuce, and I still have even more wild basil flowers going off. And there was one more thing, I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, the remains of the mammoth sunflower right here. Just kind of acting as mulch, kind of working. And our calicarpas are actually the only really interesting thing up here, other than this lettuce that I still haven't cut down. You can see it's covered in aphids, even from how far away I am. Oh yeah, I also have a bunch of peppers that I think I'm going to try and overwinter. I don't know if these are habaneros or ghost peppers right here. I think they might be red habaneros. I have to kind of get these Physalis cut back and stuff. Not quite yet though. But yeah, spicy peppers. Can you kind of smell it?